Yeah. I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won one. Yeah. I hope my team they won one. Yeah. Man. I hope my team they won one. I hope my team they won one. Yeah. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with the hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
It's Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. We have none other than Charles Bishop, Wilton Jackson II, AD Drew in the house as we break it down. Man, y'all gonna have to deal with me tonight, man. And got some great interviews coming up, but I got my Kendrick Lamar update. He done flipped out again. Whacked out murals. He just, oh my God, squab. Oh, he just tripping. The man is tripping, man. He's tripping. He like against everybody. And said a lot of opinions here, but no power to carry. I was like,
bars on bars.
He's not right. He's not right, man. He's not right. Welcome to episode 588 of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab radio show and podcast, the show that's covering the sporting HBCU diaspora. All things HBCU sports from institutions large and small. From the NEIA to the NCAA, we share insights and information on the HBCU sports culture, HBCU athletic aesthetics, to facilitate the story of HBCU athletic program and the business of HBCU sports. I'm your host, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, along with my co-host, Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. We're filming from our home studios and sending a signal live to our KSWH 1230 AM studios with the Texas Radio Hall of Famer, Ralph Cooper, multi-Hall of Famer Ralph Cooper in the beautiful home of Texas Southern University from Houston, Texas. Got some big news out there, guys.
A lot of news.
I don't know where you want to start. We probably won't be able to cover everything in this first segment, so you can decide what's hot on your mind and what direction you want to go. I'm just going to take it around to each of you. I'm going to start with you, Charles Bishop. What ways do you want to get it done? What's on your mind?
Let's start off. This came from the SWAC office today. SWAC statement regarding UAPB JSU allegations. Friday, November 8th, the SWAC was made aware of allegations regarding potential unauthorized usage of practice film after conducting a comprehensive review that involved IT analysis provided by DBS Sports, oral and written statements from both institutions, individual interviews. There was not enough substantial evidence to prove any allegations of unethical conduct by Jackson State University. So that was a statement today coming from the SWAC, the genesis of it at least, coming from the SWAC in regards to the investigation of unauthorized usage of practice film.
So we can close that for now.
Yeah. The tale of espionage didn't prove to, what it was a box office flop, basically.
What a choice of words.
Oh yeah. Next one, Charles coming out the chopping blocks. He's doing his thing. I guess he in that mode too. Wilton Jackson II. What's on your mind?
So I'll get into some of the coaching changes we'll have to talk about in over the next couple of weeks. Bob McDowell is out as Prairie View football coach. 1 year after leading Prairie View to the SWAC championship game, Bob McDowell is reportedly out. A report from John Bryce of Football Scoop stated that McDowell formally parted ways with the Panthers this weekend. McDowell was a longtime NFL safety who was an All-Pro in 1991 with the Houston Oilers. Replaced Eric Dooley as head coach prior to the 2022 season. In 3 seasons under McDowell, the Panthers earned a share of the SWAC West title in 2022 and earned the outright division championship last season before falling to FAMU in the conference championship game. The Panthers slipped to 5-6 this season and 3-4 in SWAC play. McDowell's record is 17-17 overall and 14-9 in SWAC games.
17-18, not you, but you doing the report. So
yeah,
again, I tell some of these folks they got to do a little more homework. Parted ways is an intriguing term to use, and I guess it's appropriate. But some people are talking about it as if he's fired, and these are Prairie View folks that's supposed to be on it. And I'm like, the contract ended. Can we at least get this information correct? and they decided not to enter in the new contract, meaning they didn't renew the contract. All right, next. 80 Drew, you want to talk? you want,
He paused next.
nah, hey, y'all can make this bigger than what it is. Next one, you want to go with the next coach? Give us some updates on that one. And this one's interesting because they don't know what words they want.
Actually, I was not going to go to the coach. I was hoping Wilton could put his two together.
I thought about it.
You thought about it because you know the story that I wanted to hit Wilton. It is 3 and 4.
Mm-hmm.
3 and 4.
Hmm.
The fact that Jackson State winneth in football, FAMU winneth in volleyball. They never, when Jackson State wins football, FAMU volleyball. When FAMU wins football, Jackson State wins volleyball.
That's pretty good.
So, FAMU wins the SWAC volleyball championship, taking that in 4 by a score of 3-1 over who, Charles?
Over Jackson State.
No, don't answer that. Don't answer that. Over Jackson State, 25-23, 25-23, 8-25, and 25-15. Very, very great game. Very great game. And I'll just throw this in also because I know our time is limited. Congratulations also to Delaware State for pulling the upset and defeating the undefeated Howard Bison in the BAC volleyball championship, and they won that in 5 sets there over the Howard Bison. So congratulations to both FAMU and to Delaware State, who will be moving on to the NCAA volleyball tournament, and I believe those announcements come out on Sunday. Y'all can have that Norfolk and Dawson Olders, whichever one of y'all want that one.
I'm gonna give it back to Wilton since he was gonna do it. But before we do that, I wanted to acknowledge the volleyball. I got a chance to watch both of them, and you're actually correct. They were very good matches. Mm-hmm. The Howard and Delaware State was a thrilling match, as you said. It went to 5, and Delaware State was 3 points away in set 4, and somehow Howard pushes back, and then it trades bars a little bit, and they finally get it done. They go to the 5th set, and you say, all right, the number 1 seed is going to get it right. They kind of jump out of there in that 5th set, and all of a sudden, here comes the Hornets, and they refuse to be denied. They even got a point taken away after they thought they had it. It was down to 2. They came back and still got it done. So fascinating in terms of that matchup. I'm going to go back to you, Wilton, since you're doing the coaching updates. Go ahead and take it away from Norfolk State.
So Dawson Odoms will not be retained as Norfolk State's football coach. That's coming from HBCUsports.com. That happened Tuesday afternoon.
He used the words not retained. Good stuff. All right,
okay. Spartans athletic director Dr. Melanie Webb announced that after 4 seasons, Dawson Odoms will not be returning as head coach. I want to thank Coach Odoms for his continued commitment and dedication to Spartan football, Webb said in a statement released by the university. Since his arrival, he has become a valued member of our family and community, always representing Norfolk State with dignity and class. We wish him nothing but the best moving forward. Odoms finished his Norfolk State team with a 15-31 overall record and 7-13 in MEAC games. Odoms left Southern University after a successful 8-year run as head coach that included 4 SWAC West championships and a conference title in 2013. Odoms' first season at Norfolk State was his best, finishing 6-5 overall and 2-3 in conference games. Norfolk State said that a nationwide search for a new head coach would begin immediately. No further comment will be made at this time.
Yeah, it was interesting because it seems like there was some updates to the release. One of them said he was reassigned, and the other one said they had parted ways. So stay tuned. I guess we'll figure that one out as well. With that, I'll go back to you, Charles, and see what direction that you want to go in for some additional news from your perspective.
Sure, let's take a look at the SWAC Football Weekly Honors. The SWAC has tabbed Alabama A&M's Cornelius Brown IV and Caleb Dawson, Florida A&M's Thad Franklin, Bethune-Cookman's Dennis Palmer, Alabama State's Brandon Gilliam, and Texas Southern's Quintel Quinn for SWAC Football Weekly Honors. Let's take a look at the co-offensive players of the week. Cornelius Brown with 19 of 28 for 252 yards and 5 touchdowns, 1 interception with the win over Mississippi Valley. Threw 2 touchdowns in the opening half, and then followed that with scores of 35, 9, and 13 in the third quarter. Also, co-offensive player of the week, Thad Franklin, career game, 195 yards rushing, 3 touchdowns. He also caught a pass for 5 yards that matched 200 all-purpose yards in the 41-38 win versus Bethune-Cookman. Franklin was also named the Florida Classic MVP. Defensive player of the week was Dawson. Dawson garnered 5 total tackles with 2 solo stops and 1 tackle for a loss. In addition, he had 2 interceptions. The first setting up Alabama A&M's first score of the day in their 49-35 win over Mississippi Valley. So that was Caleb Dawson as Defensive Player of the Week. And then the specialist of the week was Brandon Gilliam. Gilliam made 3 or 4 field goals to help Alabama State earn a 9-6 win over Prairie View. And the newcomers of the week, Dennis Palmer from Bethune-Cookman, put a bow on his outstanding rookie season with a season and career highs in rushing attempts and yards. He had 37 rushing attempts, 178 yards, 3 rushing touchdowns, along with Quintel Quinn, newcomer of the week. He rushed for 154 yards and 2 touchdowns on 17 attempts. Texas Southern's big 31-23 win over UAPB. So those are your SWAC players of the week.
Yes, MEAC Players of the Week wasn't released as of yet. So interesting that they are scheduled to do Players of the Week this week, but hadn't got it out there. And then obviously you got the release for all conference honors. So I don't know how they're going to put that together. AD, I know you got 2 of them in there with the volleyballs, but I'm going to go back to you and let you sneak in. You did this so smooth. We're getting 2 in the first time. I'm still going to let you get another one in. Go ahead.
Actually, I'm just going to say this. I just want everybody to go back to the Sunday's BCSN Sports Wrap. We had 2 great interviews with our 2 coaches who are continuing on in the Division II playoffs. So Coach Sam Shade of Miles College and Coach Dr. Al Parker of the Virginia Panthers. Just if you can, please go back and watch those interviews. They are broken up into bite-sized portions there on the BCSN channel here on YouTube. So, you know, 2 great interviews, great conversation that we had with both coaches there.
Great comments, and I agree with you. I had a chance to listen to it. Great job on those interviews. We'll see if we can live up to it a little bit today. With that being said, I am intrigued in terms of your thoughts before we get into our first break and come back on the other side and get into the mid-major poll reads. I did kind of want to get into your thoughts in terms of when you hear these dismissals or contracts not renewed, what is your framework when you start looking for coaches? Do you just go in and say, here's the hot names, Division II coaches, or, you know, obviously some people still on the idea that you go after these branded name coaches, would-be coaches, previous NFL stars, or do you take time to try to figure out, you know, where AD is connected, where he's from, what is his mindset, where is he trying to go with the program? You know, a little more nuance in terms of your take of the next coach. Is somebody familiar with the landscape? Starting with you, Charles, what is your general mindset when you see a coach being released? How do you go about deciding what are your thoughts in terms of the next coach coming in?
I mean, I try to kind of go back and try to backtrack into, you know, the AD's relationships, their background, where they come from, and really start to kind of attempt to sort of put puzzle pieces together. Obviously, you hear what the hot names might be, but I think, like you mentioned, like I think a more nuanced approach is sort of looking at their background and looking at their relationship capital with people whom they've hired previously, or people that they are sort of the characteristics that they're looking for. So you sort of put the puzzle together that way.
Wilton, what are your thoughts? How do you go about when you start analyzing potential coaching hires at an institution?
I'll add to what Charles was saying in terms of once you figure out where the AD's previous relationships have been, once those puzzle pieces, once you kind of start to connect those puzzle pieces, you also have to start to ask yourself, okay, are these coaches really good coaches, or did they just have a bevy of talent? Because sometimes you may not necessarily be the best coach, but you have good talent. That's one thing. Then 2, you also looking at what type of continuity are these coaches that you're looking at, have they built in the previous programs where they were? Were they there for one season? Were they there for 2 seasons? Or were they there for 3 or more seasons? Because 9 times out of 10, if they've been there more than 3 seasons, they probably were a pretty good coach and had lots of success in most cases. That's not for every program, but that's in most cases. You want to look and see what type of coach am I bringing in? What type of level of success has he had? And then also, is this coach a genuinely good person? Like, does he work well with athletes? Just because he works well with athletes on one level doesn't necessarily mean that's going to always translate. You know, people had question marks, and I'm sure all of y'all by now have seen the comments from Chennis Berry throughout the season, even just more recently, about how some people didn't expect him to be where he is now after having the success that he had at Benedict, having those multiple.
Yeah, I don't know who he listening to.
Yeah, because I'm thinking to myself, like,
most folks put him quite now. He may be talking about the ADs that were in the conference, but he can't be talking about the media folks, because I think everybody was like, watch out. With that being said, we're going to take this first break. We'll come back on the other side, get in the poll rankings. We'll have some time. I want to get your thoughts, AD Drew, and we may have another one coming in, and we'll do both of those in terms of that question. So let's take our first break and come back on the other side.
HBCU football fans, this year's Cricket Celebration Bowl has a new date. A champion will rise at Mercedes-Benz Stadium on December 14th as the MEAC and SWAC champions meet once again. Join us in Atlanta for championship football, interactive fan experiences, and iconic marching bands. It's an HBCU family reunion that you don't want to miss. See who will be crowned the next HBCU national champion. For event and ticket information, visit thecelebrationbowl.com.
Looking for the ultimate cultural experience of 2025? The Zora Outdoor Festival of the Arts is where you need to be. From January 31st to February 2nd, Eatonville, Florida will come alive with incredible live performances from the Levert Experience and the Barbie. Immerse yourself in interactive art. Shop from over 80 vendors. Take a journey through history with a new virtual tour and enjoy family-friendly STEM activities. Plus, don't miss the unforgettable R&B tribute to the legends, honoring talents such as Whitney Houston, Marvin Gaye, and Luther Vandross. This is more than a festival. It's a celebration of Eatonville's rich cultural heritage. Visit zorafestival.org for tickets.
ESPN Events Band of the Year, a title reserved for the absolute best in the world of HBCU marching bands. A season-long competition that culminates in Atlanta on Friday, December 13th. Drum majors, percussion, drill, auxiliaries, musicality. All aspects will be adjudicated by expert judges in the world of college bands. 4 bands will qualify for the big stage, where national champions will be crowned. Follow us on social media for ranking updates throughout the season. And join us at Mercedes-Benz Stadium on December 13th. For event and ticket information, visit bandoftheyear.com.
At AutoMasters LLC, our mission is to serve our community by providing quality automobiles at affordable prices. All of our vehicles are inspected and certified to offer you the confidence in knowing you have a quality vehicle. Our goal is to provide you with a seamless process and positive experience for your automobile purchase. Financing recommendations and specific vehicle inquiries are available at your request. You can find us at www.automasters06.com and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Also, please feel free to contact Terrence Miles at 601-927-7794. And oh yeah, tell him Sonia sent you.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Wilton Jackson and Charles Bishop and AD Drew. We have Brandon King that has come in and joined us. We're gonna go over the polls. Really just look at the 7 teams in there, and we'll talk about the top 2 spots, because nothing has changed in the poll this weekend. So we'll get a chance just to go straight to us, because I want to get a little time to talk about the matchups more than just going down the polls as we normally do. So if we can bring up that final slide with the 7 teams, none of them have changed, 7 through 1 actually. But we had the matchup with number 2 Virginia Union Panthers, as everybody's known by now, had that big playoff victory as they got it done against Lenore Ryan this past weekend. So they improved to 9-3, 6-1.
That'd be when they got Lenore Ryan coming up. It was
right. Let me get through this. 9-3, 6-1, 4 first place votes, 190 points. Number 2 and then number 1, Miles Golden Bears, as they sit at 10-2, 80 and 8-0 in terms of their matchup with their big win they had this past weekend. With that being said, I want to get into their matchup that they have coming up this week to talk a little bit about what that looks like. Miles travels on the road to Valdosta State Blazers, 10-0, 6-0. Miles Golden Bears comes in at 10-2, 8-0. Lenore Ryan, as Drew was talking about, Virginia Union actually goes to Lenore Ryan. There was a little mix-up there with Virginia Union being the lower seed. There was some thoughts that may get the home game. It didn't happen that way, so they'll actually be on the road in terms of what that looks like. Oftentimes, Drew may allude to this, sometimes those are not just in terms of the seeding, but also who puts in the bid. So that may have been a part of what took place here. Don't know that for sure, but something to consider when you think about these matchups. That features Virginia Union Panthers that sit at 9-3, 6-1. They're ranked 2 in terms of ranking. Lenore Ryan, 10-2, 7-2 coming in this matchup. With that being said, let me get your thoughts. Let's do the first one. The number 1 ranked thing, Miles Golden Bears, and then we'll have a little time to get you all to tell me your matchups and thoughts on the Virginia Union Panthers. Starting with you, AD Drew. What are your thoughts in terms of this Miles Valdosta State matchup? Obviously, it's been out there. Tremaine Jackson over there, the head coach at the Blazers. Some people are trying to put his name in there at the Prairie View job, which would be fascinating because he's a Texas Southern graduate. So a lot of things going on there. But before we get in there, he has a game to be played, trying to make a run in the playoffs. So let's talk about that matchup against Miles Golden Bears.
Well, you're talking 2 of the hottest teams in Division II football. Miles, the winner of 10 consecutive, and obviously Valdosta State, who's undefeated, the winners of 11 consecutive this particular season. Both teams like to run the ball on the ground, but the biggest difference, Valdosta State is averaging about 450 plus yards of offense and 44 points a game, whereas Miles is averaging about 380 yards of offense and 30 points a game. Virginia Union is giving up 9 points a game, while Miles is giving up about 17 points a game. So while they may have 2 similar styles, with both of them loving to run the ball, this thing is going to come down to the defense. Can Miles' defense stop Virginia? Excuse me, I keep wanting to say Virginia State. Can Miles' defense stop Valdosta State's attack and slow the ball down? We know Miles' defense is opportunistic. They are going to have to score with their defense on Saturday in order to beat a very good Valdosta State team. And that does not mean directly you got to get a scoop and score or a pick 6. It could also mean that they set the offense up with a very short field in order to give the offense an extra possession too. That's the only way that you could go in and beat a Valdosta State, because trying to beat them heads up is going to be tough, not only for Miles, but anybody on the Division II level.
Great points. Let's go with you, Charles. What are your thoughts in terms of this matchup?
Yeah, I think AD knocked it out the park. I mean, defensively, can Miles get those stops when they need it? Can they get a guy like Sammy Edwards off the field? So I think those are the things that I'm really paying attention to. Like you mentioned, Valdosta State, they can run the football very well. You saw just this past week, Blake Hester, he ran for all close to 120 yards or so. But defensively, that has been Miles' calling card this season, and defense wins championships. Can they get those big stops? I mean, like you said, they've been opportunistic, but can they get those empty possessions? Can they set Miles up with short fields? And those are things that I'm really looking for in this game in terms of getting it done, because you got a formidable opponent here with Valdosta State.
Good points. Also, Wilton, what are your thoughts in terms of that matchup?
Mine is very similar to both ADs and Charles as well, but I think more so than anything, a lot of emphasis gets put on Sammy Edwards. But let's not also forget, beyond Blake Hester, they also have a couple other running backs in Alfonso Franklin and Bud Chaney that can get the job done as well on the ground. So it's not just one setback for them. They definitely they have a series of running backs that can get the job done. But then also that Miles defense that Charles was just referring to, they're definitely going to have to step up, and they're going to get challenged against some really decent receivers from Valdosta State. You're talking about Rodney Bullard, Tyler Agerio, and Grayson Malashevich. So if we've seen Miles show up in different times, specifically on defense throughout the season. If this was ever a week where they wanted to continue playing in the Division II playoffs, they're going to have to get a strong performance from their defense, specifically on that backside. From the linebackers and secondary on.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Brandon, what are your thoughts? I know you're excited about the FCS playoffs because you might have a little more interest in that, but we're going to need to see if you can give us your thoughts on this matchup with Miles in Valdosta State.
You're on mute, Brandon.
There we go. I'll say this. I think it's going to be very important that Miles get off to a fast start. Because when you've been as dominant as Valdosta State is, you're used to doing the punching. And I think if they can kind of get off to a fast start and kind of maybe even try to put them on their heels to get them in a situation that they're not used to, it's going to be, I think, vital that they're going to have to try to create some turnovers and kind of like has already been said, to try to set up the defense with short fields and things of that nature. They're going to be able to take advantage of to try to get quick multiple scores, to try to get Valdosta State to try to be playing uphill. We know they can put up points, but I think it's going to be vital for them to get off to as good a start as possible, create turnovers, and then secure the football themselves to try to get them the best chance to try to win this game, because they definitely have got their work cut out for them on Saturday.
Good points by all of you all, I should say. When you think about that matchup, one of the things I like what all of you said is the challenge you have with Valdosta State offense and what they're able to put up. So you're going to certainly need the turnovers that you talked about. But somehow it's going to be fascinating to see, can the defensive line particularly get some type of penetration and play as physical enough a style to be able to combat what Valdosta State wants to do, to at least put them in the ability to get it done. So that's kind of what I'm looking at, their ability to kind of control that line of scrimmage from a defensive side. Certainly if they can do it offensive, they can run the ball. But we'll see what that looks like. So let's turn the page and go to Virginia Union, that matchup with Lenore Ryan, the Bears. Sticking with you, Brandon, we'll go back in the other way in terms of that direction. What are your thoughts in terms of that matchup between Lenore Ryan, the Bears, and the Panthers of Virginia Union, Brandon?
Well, Lenore Ryan, and I'm probably thinking of the same two words that's going to be a key in this game, and that's Jada Byers. I think that if he can get it rolling, then that greatly increases their chances of winning. Statistically, when you look at Lenore, they're giving up 27 points per game. So they're scoring 27 points per game, and they're giving up about 18 and a quarter. So obviously they're going to have some challenges there, Virginia Union, in terms of scoring. But I think as has been the case so many times with them, really over the past few years, as does Jada Byers go, so do they. So it's going to be important for them to win the battle in the trenches, to try to open up some holes for Mr. Byers, because it doesn't take much. You know, he can catch a sliver and take it to the house. So it's going to be important that they can win that battle up front, and give him some room to run, and from a passing perspective, not throw the ball to the other team. and that's kind of where it begins for me. Looking at from a standpoint of statistics, strangely enough, they
Well, let me hold you there. Let's get into this break. We up
okay.
against it. We'll
Oh,
come back and we'll get all your thoughts on that matchup between Virginia Union and Lauren Ryan in the second part of that. But with that, let's go take our next break. We'll come back on the other side and we'll get in here with our first interview.
Looking for the ultimate cultural experience of 2025? The Zora Outdoor Festival of the Arts is where you need to be. From January 31st to February 2nd, Eatonville, Florida will come alive with incredible live performances from the Levert Experience and the Bar Cave. Immerse yourself in interactive art. Shop from over 80 vendors. Take a journey through history with a new virtual tour app. And enjoy family-friendly STEM activities. Plus, don't miss the unforgettable R&B tribute to the legends, honoring talents such as Whitney Houston, Marvin Gaye, and Luther Vandross. This is more than a festival. It's a celebration of Eatonville's rich cultural heritage. Visit zorafestival.org for tickets.
HBCU football fans, this year's Cricket Celebration Bowl has a new date. A champion will rise at Mercedes-Benz Stadium on December 14th as the MEAC and SWAC champions meet once again. Join us in Atlanta for championship football, interactive fan experiences, and iconic marching bands. It's an HBCU family reunion that you don't want to miss. See who will be crowned the next HBCU national champion. For event and ticket information, visit thecelebrationbowl.com.
When it comes to professional learning, teachers deserve better. From the leader in online learning, Stride brings you the Stride Professional Development Center, an on-demand library of mobile-friendly courses that gives teachers choice and flexibility, allowing them to learn anytime and anywhere. Our dynamic courses provide bite-sized learning and help educators advance their knowledge while also gaining professional development hours. It's time you take charge of your learning. Visit us today to get started.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna love, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington out on assignment. So we have Charles, AD, Brandon, and Wilton. Brandon, I had to cut you off quick there, so I'm going to let you come back in there and finish your thoughts. We're going to go ahead and continue with that Virginia Union matchup there. Go ahead and finish your thoughts there.
Oh, I was just going to say an interesting stat. They actually, from a rushing state, both stopping the ball and running the ball, they allow and produce the exact same amount of yards, 116.5 yards per game. So I think there still will be some opportunities for Union. But again, I think the battle up front is going to determine who keeps going and who goes home on Saturday.
Good stuff. Great comment. Let me go to you, Charles. Your thoughts on Virginia Union Panthers, Lenore Ryan. Can they get it done?
Yes, they can get it done, but they got to control the clock. Jalen Ferguson coming off of a huge day. When you take a look at what he was able to do against West Alabama, 400 yards passing, over 400 yards passing, keeping explosive offenses off the field is done with a great running game. Marino Castle said it best. How do you beat an explosive offense? You run the football, you keep them off the field. So, again, I think it's the formula is going to be simple. You know, you got to get Jada Byers and others up and going with that running game and control the time of possession.
Good stuff, good stuff. AD Drew, your thoughts on this matchup? You know, you one of those D2 gurus. Want to know what your thoughts are?
I mean, I'm not going to overstate the obvious and say Jada Byers is going to have to go for probably close to $1.25 or above in order for Virginia Union to win this particular ball game. But let me give you a couple of other names that you need to pay attention to. And if you hear these names called throughout the broadcast, it's going to be a good thing for Virginia Union. We're going to start off with quarterback Mark Wright. He leads the conference, one of the top passers in the nation when it comes to efficiency, hitting 66% of his pass attempts. So that's name number one. And in addition to Jada Byers, when Jada Byers needs a break from rushing the ball, Curtis Allen. We need to see what Curtis Allen does. If we're hearing Jada Byers and Curtis Allen, and they can combine for about $170 or so between the two of them, that's a good day for Virginia Union. On the defensive side, Shamar Graham, hell, he's the only thing he's done is lead the CIAA in tackles for the last 3 years. Somehow he didn't get voted as player of the year this year. Y'all go figure that out. I'm one of those voting SIDs, not in that conference, but I do understand how these things flow now, since I am one of those voting people. And another name defensively that you need to list out for is Isaac Jackson. He's number 2 on the team in tackles, but and he's also number 2 in sacks on the team. So if you see him causing havoc there in the backfield, he leads the team in tackles for loss. So those are 4 names that you need to key on. And one last quick comment. Yeah, if you go back to Sunday show, and we would talk about some of those things about whether Virginia Union wanted to host, whether they didn't want to host, and some of those factors that go into those type of things, especially during this Thanksgiving week. Some of those things that we actually talked about on Sunday show were some of the factors that went into this game actually being played in North Carolina versus in Virginia.
Good points. Wilton, your thoughts on terms of this matchup between the Bears and the Panthers?
I'm just going to put a bow on pretty much what everybody has said. I think more so than anything, while all the interest all the interest is put on Jada Byers, and obviously he has to have a strong game in this game. And I definitely agree with what AD said: $125, $150, $150 on the ground. I also think that Mark Wright still has to have a solid game. And one player that I want to mention that I was actually surprised nobody had mentioned already was their wide receiver, the biggest playmaker, in Reginald Vick Jr. Guy's done nothing but caught passes in key moments throughout the season when his number has been called. Are you talking about a guy who has about 947 receiving yards, 9 touchdowns this season? Again, obviously this team goes, Virginia Union goes as Jada Byers go, but don't forget about the performance that Mark Wright would still need to have. Plus, getting a big-time playmaker like Reginald Vick Jr. Involved in the game would be key.
Good stuff. Let's pivot a little bit in terms of what's going on. Is somebody typing while they're doing the show? Watch it. So it might be your earphones. Just watch your connections there. With that being said, we're going to pivot to the FCS with another team in the playoffs, which happens to be Tennessee State. Brandon may know a thing about that. Give him a shout out on sneakershop.talk.com. He put out there that Sandler Ellis once again was named Big South OVC Freshman of the Week for his outstanding play in that big matchup that went down. Brandon, I'm not going to belabor the 4 points about your fans down in the championship game, but I want to know if you are going to be one of those brave fans that are going to be able to make it to Montana this week. If not, you certainly going to write about it and watch it and cover it, so I understand that. But in all seriousness, what are your thoughts in terms of this matchup? This is another tough one in some ways in terms of where it's going to be played, the trip out there, Montana, playoff sound and ready. But it was a couple of years ago that Tennessee State actually took a trip to play an early season game out there, which for a lot of players probably has them in the right mindset in terms of going to the West Coast. With that being said, what are your thoughts in terms of this matchup? And then we'll get everybody a chance to maybe talk a little bit about that playoff matchup.
I get some of my. I'm going to echo some of my sentiments from the Valdosta State game and Miles in terms of they're going to have their work cut out for them. You know, Montana's a physical team. They're going to bring that on both sides of the ball. In terms of experience, they're going up against a team that has been in the playoffs 28 times, whereas this is a Tennessee State team that is, as we all know, is making their second appearance in the postseason in the past 11 years. So this is a program in terms of Montana State that knows what to do in terms of preparation, in terms of mindset and things of that nature, is going to be right in their backyard. So some of the things, and I'm going to try to wrap up in terms of that. They're going to have to play more like they did in the first quarter against Southeast Missouri in terms of decisive offense, creating turnovers, Draylon Ellis getting rid of the ball decisively, hitting his receivers, and less of what we saw in the second where the offense got stagnated and bogged down, and they allowed SEMO to kind of work their way back into the game. If they have those types of lows against Montana, I think they're going to be in trouble. It's going to be a tough game for these guys. It's going to be interesting to see how they, like I said, approach the distance and the weather, which could be a factor as well heading into this matchup.
All things in Montana is not maybe as bad as it could be because snow is not in the weather forecast, but it's still gonna be cold. Charles?
Well, I was just curious in terms of their matchup against North Dakota State. I mean, how big was that in terms of going into this playoff game against Montana?
That came up actually on today's Big South OVC call. And Coach George said that going up there and playing those guys in terms of what North Dakota State brought to the table, he thought was a great way of kind of helping to prepare his guys for some of the things that they could see against Montana.
I like that. Great point. Great question. AD Drew, what are your thoughts in terms of this matchup?
Well, number one, it's going to be interesting to see if no one wants to follow Tennessee State at home. Will somebody be brave enough to follow them out in the cold? And I'm not trying to be funny when I'm saying that, but hell,
you would imagine though the fans that are likely to get out there is being national in terms of a brand. I'm sure they have a lot of fans on the West Coast. So those are ones I agree with you. From this side, I'm not sure how many folks in that short turnaround will get a plane ticket out there. There's some big money folks that might be able to do that at Tennessee State coming out of there. But I imagine most of the folks, to your point, are going to be how many of those brave folks going to come up from L.A. or Oakland or even come down from Seattle. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Go ahead and finish up.
Yeah, because I mean, most black folk don't know how to fly to Montana, let alone drive. I am being for real when I say that. Nobody's gonna make that trip on the car. Here's
I don't even know what city to fly into. I know it's in Missoula, but seriously, can you fly?
Wait. Let's go back to third grade geography. What is the capital of Montana? Does anybody even remember?
Yeah, I do.
That's my point.
It's Helena.
Charles, you remember?
Charles, one of those guys. He used to have to practice all that.
I mean,
but everybody,
if I remember correctly, but I had to go back into the Wayback Machine. I did not Google that. Here's something that's interesting. Tennessee State scoring 27 points a game, giving up 23 points a game. Montana scoring 34 points a game, giving up 25 points a game. If this is a 40-degree day, which it won't be, you would think this would be a high-scoring affair. But with these two teams who have shown that they can put up points throughout the season, now it's really going to be relying on defense. It's going to be basic football. Who can hold on to the football? Who can get the other team uncomfortable? Well, we know Tennessee State is already going to be uncomfortable because they are not used to the weather. It gets cold in Nashville, but it don't get cold this time of the year. Not that type of cold. So, how quickly will Tennessee State just put the cold out of their mind and decide that they want to play football? If it's in the first quarter, they got a chance. If they start the game, wait to get back into the locker room at halftime so they can find some heaters, Tennessee State will get blown out.
The other thing that's fascinating in terms of that matchup is my understanding it's a late game too. So you don't get the benefit of having a noon kickoff and it being at least kind of warm Sunday. It's what, 9:15? That is local time out there, 8:15. Ooh, so yeah, it's gonna get colder, particularly second half. With that being said, Wilton, your thoughts? You can add anything into that?
I think, and Brandon kind of hit to this point, so I won't spend too much time on this first point. But obviously, Draylon Ellis has to have a good game for Tennessee State to win this game on the offensive side of the ball. But I think more so defensively, we've seen Tennessee State have some really strong performances, specifically in the latter weeks of the season. Even when they started off in this first quarter on Saturday, and you would have thought, when I looked at the score 21-0, I was like, oh, wow, like I was not expecting a 21-0 first quarter against SEMO. That was not on my bingo card. But I think that the energy and the tenacity they had within that first quarter of the game, they have to bring that against Montana. We're talking about two running backs for Montana and Eli Gilman and Nick Osmo, who have combined like 1,500 yards on the ground. So obviously you're going to have to be ready to stop those guys. So some of your better defenders like Ahmad Nelson, Sanders Ellis, Jalen McClendon, who's up for some postseason honors, they're going to have to be strong in being able to stop the run against Montana.
Yeah, they had some big time wins this year. They played North Dakota out of their conference 27-24, one of their losses there, but they've been able to roll off a couple of them, obviously against their rival Montana State that was in the championship game last year. So they're back into their normal business. So it'll be interesting in terms of that matchup. Let's take our next break. We'll come back on the other side. We'll get a chance to talk a little bit about some additional matchups, the classics, and a game that was postponed earlier that's played as well this week. Stick with us. We'll be right back after this next break.
HBCU football fans, a champion will rise at Mercedes-Benz Stadium on December 14th. MEAC champions, SWAC champions, the Cricket Celebration Bowl, crowning an HBCU national champion. For event and ticket information, visit thecelebrationbowl.com.
This is Brian Fulford. AD Drew and I are co-hosts of the BCSN Sports Wrap. We talk about all things related to HBCU athletics. From the games, teams, coaches, and fan interest stories, we cover it all. You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN Sports Wrap, YouTube at MyJBN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show.
Looking for the ultimate cultural experience of 2025? The Zora Outdoor Festival of the Arts is where you need to be. From January 31st to February 2nd, Eatonville, Florida will come alive with incredible live performances from the Levert Experience and the Bar Cave. Immerse yourself in interactive art. Shop from over 80 vendors. Take a journey through history with a new virtual tour app. And enjoy family-friendly STEM activities. Plus, don't miss the unforgettable R&B tribute to the legends, honoring talents such as Whitney Houston, Marvin Gaye, and Luther Vandross. This is more than a festival. It's a celebration of Eatonville's rich cultural heritage. Visit zorafestival.org for tickets.
ESPN Band of the Year returns to Atlanta on December 13th. 4 marching bands will qualify for the big stage, where 2 national champions will be crowned. Follow us on social media for rankings updates throughout the season. And join us at Mercedes-Benz Stadium on December 13th. For event and ticket information, visit Band.
Compress the analytic data with your hip-hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
Dr. Bill's inside the HBCU Sports Lab. You talking about the Band of the Year. I told everybody on Sunday last week in terms of that matchup in the Florida Classic that those bands had a chance to jump up in the rankings, and you had the other matchup in what a lot of people refer to as the Soul Bowl with those 2 magical bands. Jackson State was sitting at 2. But things have flipped and changed. FAMU has moved all the way up to 2. And so it looks like it'll be an A&T FAMU matchup. We'll see with the final announcement, but that was interesting. Maybe we'll get a chance to talk a little bit more about that for those that are able to do the show on Thursday. We plan to give you a Thanksgiving show on Thursday. Some of these guys will be knee deep with their families, so we might have a couple of additional guests on here to show you what that looks like. But we'll see what we can do to give you a little bit of show after you digest your turkey, your ham. For some of y'all that still eat the pork, and for those that do the turducking, and some of y'all are fancy now. Y'all got your duck and I know
Now,
some of
we
you
in the South, we pulling out the grill.
You're right. You got the grill, fried, both slide and dice.
Fried
That
turkey.
being said, this week is kind of nice because we have a Thursday, Friday, and Saturday smorgasbord thing talking about food of HBCU football for this holiday weekend. We traditionally have the Thursday matchup, Turkey Day Classic. We have the D2 SIAC Tuskegee Golden Tigers coming in to play Alabama State. The Hornets there in that magical matchup where Tuskegee comes in at 5-5, Alabama State at 6-5 in terms of what that looks like in those matchups. Both of them, oddly enough, 5-3 in terms of what they did in conference. Then the Friday matchup that we don't normally get is a makeup game, if you would, a game that had to be postponed because of the weather early in this year. Means we'll feature two of the ag schools in the conference. Alabama A&M hits the road and they go to Florida A&M in Tallahassee. Both teams coming in 6-5, so somebody will solidify a winning season. In terms of their positioning in the conference, you have Alabama A&M coming in at 4-3, as well as the Rattlers at 4-3. So fascinating in terms of what that looks like in terms of that matchup. We've seen some coaching changes. Some people would say that this may have coaching implications for one of the teams there. Not sure if that's the case, but something to kind of keep your eyes on in terms of that matchup. Turkey Day Classic will be on ESPNU. FAMU and Alabama A&M will be on ESPN Plus. And then you have what many people refer to as the granddaddy of them all, the Bayou Classic, Grambling versus Southern. Southern, as you know by now, has clinched their ticket to the championship game, but this is a rivalry game. Can Grambling kind of ditch them a little bit and find a way to get to 500 on the season and close out on the coaches? Both coaches coming in on their first year, so one of them gets a chance to make a statement. Interesting in that. One has experience in the Bayou Classic while the other one doesn't. Southern comes in at 7-4. So I'm intrigued. Your thoughts in terms of this matchup here. Charles, what do you say?
Yeah, I think when you take a look at Bayou Classic, especially with Southern and Grambling, I think over the past couple of weeks, I think the quarterback position has been solidified with Jalen Woods and his play. And I think that's been huge for Southern. Another big thing is their rushing game was nothing really to talk about at the beginning of the season, but they vaulted themselves all the way up to 5th in the SWAC in terms of rushing. And I think that's been huge in terms of why they've been able to get on the roll. They've relied on the defense all season. So I'm expecting Southern to get the victory in the Bayou Classic. So I'll take the Jaguars in that. I think when you take a look at FAMU and Alabama A&M, let's go FAMU in that one. And
That was that hard to say. Was it that hard, man?
let's go FAMU in that one.
That was nice, man. AD Drew, since he cutting up like that, I'm gonna let you go ahead and talk about.
I was gonna
in those matchups.
Did you get all three of my Charles? I didn't want to cut you off, man.
Oh no, the last one. I'm gonna go with Alabama State. I'm gonna go with Alabama State and Turkey Day.
Okay.
All right.
I was just sitting up here thinking, I have been on all 6 of these campuses that are playing on this particular weekend, and were it not for the fact that I'm traveling with our basketball team, I would be taking that ultimate road trip, hitting all 3 games. One game Thursday, one game Friday, and one game Saturday. But I'm gonna keep my money in my pocket because I'll be on the clock. Thank God, because I will probably go broke at all 3 of these games. Let's start off with Thursday: Tuskegee and Alabama State. Two passionate fan bases who traditionally play on this day, who are very disappointed. Both fan bases in the outcomes of their season. Let's keep it real. Both teams have struggled offensively the last couple of games. I mean, I don't think either team scored in double digits last time they played. And I think maybe Tuskegee may have against Miles. They may have got low double digits. We know Alabama State didn't score in double digits. Hell, they scored 9 points and won the doggone ball game. What do you see that at? Two disappointing fan bases. Still got to favor Alabama State just because of the talent and the level. On Friday, I'll say it once again. If this game draws 2,500 people, I'm going to owe Brian Fulford something because I don't think anybody's going to be there with both.
I wasn't going to say that.
I say it. I don't think anybody's going to be there on Friday. You know,
nobody's there to see a tree fall in the woods. Does it make a sound? So I was.
There'll be no sound coming out of Bragg if that's the case, then, because nobody's going to be there on Friday. But once again. Two fan bases who are disappointed in the outcome of their season. FAMU thought this was going to be an opportunity that they could still be playing, hoping that somebody would knock off Jackson State, and this would be their chance to really make this a hype game. Alabama A&M, will he stay? Won't he stay? Is he going to be let go? We know the contract technically is over. Will this game make a difference in the grand scheme of the decision one way or the other? I guess we'll find out next week. But FAMU, for FAMU to lose 2 games in a row at home? Oh, you want to talk about a fan base who gonna be in an uproar? Don't let FAMU lose this game. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm not gonna make a prediction, but don't let FAMU lose this game. And then on Saturday, hey, you got to go with the Bayou Classic King. I don't care which side of the Classic he's on, he wins. I'm whichever team Coach Transgrave coaches. That's why I'm going with the Bayou.
Keep it simple. I like it. Brandon, if you would quickly, as we're up against it, as we come to end, we're gonna do one last. If you would break, and then we'll bring it around. So go ahead. What are your thoughts in terms of which? We'll do it this way. Which of the games has your most interest?
Mute.
You're on mute.
Probably the Bayou, just because of what it is and the game in and of itself. And I'll just say I think the Southern's going to win this game. The only chance that I really give to Grambling is if they are looking past them to Jackson State, which is something I don't see happening. And so I have Southern in this game.
Wilton, I'm going to ask you from this perspective, since we're right up against it. Would you rather Southern come in to the matchup 8-4, winning the game so you can kind of hype up the matchup, or would you prefer to see them lose to come in the game? In terms of that, how do you see that in terms of the matchup, the big matchup that many folks really want to see after the Bayou Classic?
If I'm Southern, I want all of my energy deeply embedded in this game. Because here's the thing. You've won games. If you're Southern, you've won games. Obviously, that's number one. Number two, but the way you've won games for the majority of the season, being the Cardiac Cats in overtime, this is the game that you need to solidify from the very moment this game starts, the first quarter, that Grambling doesn't. I know it's a rivalry game, but if you are the Southern team that's going to be representing the West, that you need to solidify and say, we're on a mission. Our job is not finished. We need to take care of business, and it starts with beating Grambling the way that they need to be beat on Saturday, so that you carry that same momentum coming into Mississippi Veterans Memorial Stadium against Jackson State. Now, will they win against Jackson State? I think it'll be a tough game. We don't know that to be sure yet, but I do think they need to carry that momentum and really not giving Grambling a chance to win this game. They need to take that very seriously. That's how I feel about that.
Certainly. Let's take our next break. We'll come back on the other side.
HBCU football fans, this year's Cricket Celebration Bowl has a new date. A champion will rise at Mercedes-Benz Stadium on December 14th as the MEAC and SWAC champions meet once again. Join us in Atlanta for championship football, interactive fan experiences, and iconic marching bands. It's an HBCU family reunion that you don't want to miss. See who will be crowned the next HBCU national champion. For event and ticket information, visit thecelebrationbowl.com.
Looking for the ultimate cultural experience of 2025? The Zora Outdoor Festival of the Arts is where you need to be. From January 31st to February 2nd, Eatonville, Florida will come alive with incredible live performances from the Levert Experience and the Bar Cave. Immerse yourself in interactive art. Shop from over 80 vendors. Take a journey through history with a new virtual tour app. And enjoy family-friendly STEM activities. Plus, don't miss the unforgettable R&B tribute to the legends, honoring talents such as Whitney Houston, Marvin Gaye, and Luther Vandross. This is more than a festival. It's a celebration of Eatonville's rich cultural heritage. Visit zorafestival.org for tickets.
ESPN Events Band of the Year, a title reserved for the absolute best in the world of HBCU marching bands. A season-long competition that culminates in Atlanta on Friday, December 13th. Drum majors, percussion, drill, auxiliaries, musicality. All aspects will be adjudicated by expert judges in the world of college bands. 4 bands will qualify for the big stage, where national champions will be crowned. Follow us on social media for ranking updates throughout the season. And join us at Mercedes-Benz Stadium on December 13th. For event and ticket information, visit band.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
Coach Shay, welcome to the show.
Guys, how's it going?
Then we got Coach Park in here too. Because of the time thing, if you don't mind, we like to do both of y'all and talk about this big matchup. Y'all gotta win this matchup so we can have you all play each other to the quarterfinals. So maybe we have a little fun with it in terms of that matchup. We certainly appreciate your time. I know you're very business, but welcome both of you all to the show, Coach Shade and Coach Dr. Parker.
Well, thank you. Congratulations, Coach Parker. Great game.
Man, that's a big time win on your end too, man. Look, I definitely share the stage with him tonight, Doc. Look, let me share the stage with Coach Shade.
Oh,
appreciate
man.
it. That's pretty good. Go ahead, Coach Shade.
Well, guys, man, it was exciting this past weekend, especially having that first home game in the history of home playoff game in the history of the school. That was very exciting for everybody involved: players, coaches, fans, alums. And to get the first playoff win in the history of the school, it was huge. So, we're definitely excited. We moved on from that one, and we got a big challenge coming up this Saturday over in Valdosta, Georgia. Coach Tremaine Jackson and his staff, they do a great job there. I've actually gotten to know Coach Jackson pretty well, man. He's a sharp guy, great football mind, and does a great job.
With that, Coach Parker, let me ask you that same question and talk about your big victory up that way and your thoughts on the next matchup as you get prepared for it this Saturday.
Yeah, it was huge, man. It was Virginia Union. This was the 14th time Virginia Union has went to the NCAA playoffs, and it was the first time they were able to get a win. So just to kind of be a part of that and to kind of lead a group that did that, it took us overtime to do it, but we was able to kind of seal that first victory. So extremely happy for the school, happy for all the kids and everybody that's just involved in the program. I thought it was something huge and it's gonna go down in history. But like Coach said, you got to quickly turn the page because it don't get any easier. As the weeks go on, it's gonna get harder. So we got Lenore Ryan coming, this week. So they're a team that went to the Final Four last year. And won a bunch of playoff games, and they're used to being here. So we got to make sure we buckled up and ready to go come Saturday.
Coach Dr. Parker, I take this the right way. We're gonna mess with you a little bit. You got that dark background. I don't want people to think that's us. We trying to shade you out for shade. Just make sure people know.
I appreciate it.
We'll be like, man, how you gonna do us like this? You know your fans out there now. That's where we do it. I just want to let them know. But on serious note, how do you balance the opportunity if I give these other three gentlemen a chance to ask a question? How do you have the balance? And this will come to you as well, Shade, after Coach Shade to answer this. How do you do the balance of the excitement that the institution, your fans have after such a historic win, but then your focus for the students to say, hey, we got to turn the page and get prepared for this next matchup? Go ahead, Coach Parker.
I think we treated it like everything else. I got a 12-hour rule, so I get the guys 12 hours to enjoy it. And from the time we walk off the field, you got 12, and that's they kind of know I say that, so, you got to kind of take it as another game, but, you kind of think in the back of your mind too, this is not just another game. This is something that's huge. It's something that's monumental, but, in a sense, you still got to act like you've been there before, although you probably haven't, so it was kind of a little bit more of that to the guys, and when we got back to it, it was business as usual on Sunday. That 12 hours was up, and it was time to focus on the next team.
I like it. Coach Shea?
Well, Dr. Parker's definitely right. We're the same way. On Sunday, we went back to business as usual also. But the thing about our team this year is that our guys, the stage, they haven't let the stage get too big for them. We played 3 teams in our conference on their homecomings, which were huge. Tuskegee, we went down there. They had 40-some thousand people there, which was a huge crowd, a big stage. And then the next week we played the SIAC championship game here on campus against Clark Atlanta, and they brought a lot of people over from Atlanta because they hadn't been in a championship game. So we feel like our players have been on that big stage in the arena, and they enjoy it. I mean, it's fun for those guys. They go out there and compete for 4 quarters, and they've enjoyed playing ball with each other in those type of stages. So that's helped us, and we feel like it'll help us on Saturday going down to a place like Valdosta.
Good stuff. Brandon, hit your mic, and I'm going to let you follow up and ask the question.
Okay. Good evening, coaches.
Good evening.
Good evening.
First of all, once again, congratulations on the wins that you had. And again, I appreciate you all spending some time with us. And this is actually for both coaches. When you look at obviously your opponents that you've got coming in and you look at the film, what are some things about your opponent that jump out at you and present some challenges that you're going to have to deal with on Saturday?
Shay, go ahead first, and then we'll go to Dr. Parker.
Okay, well, a couple things about Valdosta State, obviously, is their people. On both sides of the ball, they've got really good people on the Division II level, a number of Division I transfers, and then obviously the coaching part of it. You watch those guys play on tape, and they play fast. They're where they're supposed to be. They don't hurt themselves as far as with penalties or turnovers. They've only thrown 2 interceptions in 10 ball games this season. So, like I said, Coach Jackson and his crew, they do a great job. So we've got to be on our A game if we're going to have a chance to come back with a victory.
Coach Parker?
I think the first thing that you notice is that those guys really don't lose at home, in the confines of their stadium. So that's something that you take note of, and again, like I say, it's just the pedigree, the pedigree of the team, just the pedigree of the program that you see that they won a bunch of games like this, but I don't think our guys are shying away from that. I think they're embracing that expectation, to go in there and do some of the things where they're strong at, but they got a lot of good players on both sides of the ball. And like I said, a lot of those players have been there, to make those runs they've had. So that's one thing, you really can't substitute for. It's hard to beat teams that are used to winning. And when you kind of get into these type of games in this situation, you got to bring your A game, and you got to play your best. It's not a lot of room for some of the mistakes you might have made in the earlier part of the year. You get to this playoff time, you got to be well buttoned up. I told the guys this morning at practice, it's 15 other teams in the country playing football right now in Division II. And we're one of them, so, we got to go out there and kind of show what we're made of too. We can sit here and talk about, how good they are and what they're made of, but we got to talk about what we're made of and how good we are, so I think the guys took that approach this morning, and we had a great practice today.
Thank you for sharing it. Wilton, go ahead and ask your question, sir.
Good evening, coaches. How y'all doing?
Doing great.
Good.
So my question is for the both of you all as well. With Virginia Union, obviously we saw it in the CIAA championship where defense uh, solidified the win for you guys, Coach Parker. Obviously, defense has played a big part in what Miles has done all season with an outstanding defensive side of the ball with you, Coach Shea. Both of these teams, with your respective coaches, both teams have really dynamic makers along the edges. What have you told your defense specifically about making sure to know and pinpoint these key contributors on the opposing teams?
Well, I know for us, they've got a number of key contributors on the offensive unit, in the receiving group, the tight ends, the running backs. I think the quarterback is a really good player. And so we've got to do what we've been doing all season long. With us, it starts with defensively being able to stop the run. That's something we pride ourselves on. And one of those things, one of the reasons we want to do that is because we want to try to make people one-dimensional. We want to try to dictate the offenses, what they're going to be able to do. And so that's where it starts for us. We've got to be able to stop the run. And we tell our D-line they've got to earn the right to rush the passer, and they earn that right by stopping the running game. So that's where it starts for us on defense.
Dr. Parker?
Well, for us, it's a number of things we got to be. We got to be. We got to approach the game with the effort to make sure we put ourselves in a position to stop. And that's some things on special teams they do. They have a pretty good kicking game. And last week they threw the ball around a whole lot. In the tune of 400 plus yards. So we got to be ready on the back end as well to be able to step up to the challenge for that. But in these games, a lot of times, I think it becomes a line of scrimmage type of game. Where you got to make sure you're good up front and you're ready to go up front on both sides. So they got a lot of good guys up front on offense, a lot of good guys up front on defense. So we got to make sure we leverage that and we give ourselves the best opportunity to win.
I say purposely AD Drew for last because he got a little cheat code. He had a chance to interview both of you on Sunday night for our viewers that didn't get a chance to see the great interview that Brian and AD did with both of these coaches on Sunday night. Go check that out on the BCSN network for Sports Rap. But with that, I'm going to let Drew, because I'm sure there were some questions he didn't quite get in, that he get a chance to maybe ask you now.
Actually, this is a question that wasn't appropriate to ask on Sunday, but I could start asking this on a Tuesday now. And being a coach who has former basketball coach who has been in the playoffs with a team, basketball players, we know one of the bad things about, I won't say bad, but one of the things, if you make it to the playoffs, there's certain times of the year that you have to give up. For us as basketball players, we know we're going to be on campus doing Thanksgiving. We know we're going to be on campus doing Christmas break. But if you don't win the tournament, you're going to have to stay around spring break. You're going to be the only people on campus. Well, for football players, you're going to be there during the summer. You're going to be there during fall break. But now you're there doing Thanksgiving when everybody else is gone, and you're one of, like you said, Dr. Parker, you're one of 16 teams who are still playing football during Thanksgiving break. So what I am going to ask you guys, what has been the mental focus of your players during this week, having to be separated from what they may be with their families normally during that time? Basketball is on campus, and now they got to make room for you guys on campus. So what has been the focus of you guys players as they get ready to try to make history this Saturday?
Go ahead, Dr. Parker.
Yeah, Coach Parker.
Well, it's been a little easy for us because everybody's pretty much gone home and classes aren't in session right now. So that made it pretty easy for us in terms of that you can kind of not necessarily focus this week on being a student athlete. You can kind of focus on being an athlete student. You kind of put it in that scope. You can get more things done. In terms of that, we don't necessarily this week. We do a lot of things in the morning, so those guys can get to class, and that works for us because again, this is our second year having the highest GPA, so we know, all those things class wise, can work. But this week we let them sleep in a couple days, and not necessarily get up. at that 6 o'clock time. We pushed it back a little bit to 9. So some different things like that we still able to get done, and those guys were able to get a little bit more rest on that front without having a class. So the focus with that allows us to kind of still be at a high level. So I think it's something that's good. So got all the distractions and everything else and in place with everybody kind of being on campus, patting you on your back, telling you how great you are, and all those type of things like that. But Thursday comes, we're gonna have something special for them guys. We got a bunch of food. We're gonna feast on Thursday, and then we're gonna do it
Nice.
as a team.
Nice.
So I'm excited about that.
Coach A?
Well, Miles a few years ago made a decision to start school earlier and let the students out for the fall for the break before January. They decided basically that the week of Thanksgiving, when the kids go home, that would be the end of the semester.
Wow.
And so actually our student athletes, today was the last day of final exams, believe it or not. And so they had finals on yesterday, on Monday, and on Tuesday. They actually had some last week on Friday as we were getting ready for the game on Saturday. So it's definitely been uncharted territory for us being in this situation. But our student athletes have handled it well.
Good.
And so now we're kind of getting into that mode that Dr. Parker talked about, where nobody else is on campus. And now we're able to spend a little bit more time with our players this evening and also tomorrow, and then again on Thursday, where our administration is doing a couple meals. We're going to have a big team breakfast, and then we'll have a big team dinner on Thursday. So we'll make up for Monday and Tuesday with the exams and those things. But it's definitely different because a lot of our student athletes have not been in this situation practicing on Thanksgiving.
Great question, Drew, sharing, and thank you, Coach, for sharing that with us. I have one final question. This one we're going to take off of it and see if we can get y'all to spill the beans and get y'all in trouble a little bit here. There are dismissals in HBCU, keep them at the FCS level. And as the media, we love to play AD. So we want to see about putting your names out there and things of that nature. In all seriousness, how do you deal with that? You got the distractions in terms of that. And, I don't know if you get those quiet, secret back channel cold calls and stuff like that. You probably can't talk about that part of it. Coach Shea, don't tell on yourself, Steve.
No, I'm not. You can keep going.
In all seriousness, how do you deal with that? With your name out there, people talking and stuff like that, whether you're getting the calls or not. We love to play ADs and talk about, and rightfully so. Y'all had great seasons. And this is on the heels of what Benedict in terms of their success. And now their coach goes over there and goes to South Carolina State, and you see the success he has. So some people want to copy that in terms of Chennis Berry. What are your thoughts? And I'll start with you, Coach Shade, and then you, Dr. Parker. How do you deal with that?
Well, I know for myself, I can honestly say that I have not been contacted directly by anyone that works at at another school, which I'm glad I haven't, obviously, because we've been on a championship run as far as planning the conference championship game and things like that. So that definitely would have been a distraction. And the other thing is, I think that for our players, that would be something that they definitely wouldn't want to deal with. But I do hear the outside noise, the outside chatter. But it's the same way when you're coaching, you try not to listen to the outside noise and things like that. And I feel like obviously myself, our coaching staff, and our players have actually done a really good job with that, because I haven't heard none of our players have said anything about my name being up for whatever job. But coaches, you're gonna have coaches that are gonna say, well, hey, I heard this, I heard that, and people will call and stuff. But I feel like we've done a good job of not letting that type of stuff be a distraction.
Good answer, Coach. Because then you got the other side. Maybe they're gonna try to move you up to join the SWAC. We got all that talk out there too. In Virginia Union, they have you in the MEAC, so it's a lot of talk. But Dr. Parker, you Coach Shade had a good answer. What's yours?
I mean, I think that type of talk comes with success.
Nice.
People, it's two sides of that to be on. You can either be talking about, being in that position where you can move up, move on, and do some things, or you could be in a position where you're talking about getting fired.
Yeah, move up, move out.
Yeah. Right. So if I'm gonna be in one of those conversations, I want to be in the first one. It's just what it is. That's the nature of this business. I think everybody understands that. But as far as kind of hearing things, I guess the grapevine must don't run through Richmond because I don't hear none of it. I look and I try to stay away from it. And
those giddy up there.
Keep those horse blinders on. It's down there in Texas with you, Doc.
Doc, I've heard you, Dad.
We gonna put it out there. We gonna stop this.
That grapevine down there somewhere. It ain't up here. So look, I'm just gonna keep it moving and get this game on Saturday and focus on that, man.
There you go. Thank y'all for being good sports about that. But all seriously, we wish you well. We certainly, again, would love to have you all back next week when you're talking about the matchup. You find a way to get it done. I know that's your goals is to get out there and play some good football and win it. If you would stick with us, we're going to close out with y'all on it. So thank you for listening. The Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure you share our podcast with your friends and colleagues. Again, I want to thank Coach Sam Shade, Coach Dr. Alvin Parker from Miles College Golden Bears and the Virginia Union Panthers, respectively, for joining us and giving some insight on the historic victories they had and, more importantly, moving into the next round and how they plan to be solid with this game. I am Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, the Dean of HBCU Sports, coming from inside the lab in the College of HBCU Sports with Mike Watch, Charles Bishop. Again, we hope you enjoyed the show. Again, we want to thank you for listening to Dr. Bill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Watch and Charles Bishop. Every Tuesday and Thursday, we will give you Thanksgiving show. We'll see which team members are able to get away from the table. As the coaches will be out there with the team and celebrating them, as they're going to have great dinners on those days. But we'll do it a show for you all to make sure we can get the HBCU sports news out there. We'll give you updates on Sunday, and hopefully we'll be talking about the success these two coaches have and the updates of the other games. With that being said, follow me, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, on Facebook and Instagram. That's DrKenyattaCavil. Inside the HBCU Sports Lab on YouTube and Facebook. Coaches, we won't quiz you on this part. I'm going to give it with the fellas generally, so I won't put y'all out there. Dream big. Continue to move forward. We'll talk with you soon. AD?
Of course.
Wilton?
Lecture.
Brandon? Dismiss. He running extra lap. F squared. We'll see you later. Appreciate y'all.
Give them 2 small downs.
Coming on.